welcome back to Cast Me to Hell with me, Seb.
And me, Robbie.
And we are into our monster movie season, mainly the Universal monster movies, but we are starting with The Mummy. Well, I say starting with, but technically it's branched off from our last episode.
Yes. But what we're kind of doing is we're doing a kind of original monster movie or Universal monster movie, and then a remake or reimagining of it. So there's a theme there.
Yes.
There's a theme. You just got to let us cook.
Yeah, we've got obviously this week we are doing the original 1932 Boris Karloff The Mummy from Universal. Obviously last episode we did Lee Cronin's The Mummy, the reimagining. Have we ever done Brendan Fraser's Stephen Sommers The Mummy?
No.
We haven't done that one. I mean, that's just a disappointment to both of us, but there's a new one coming out, so we'll do that in the future.
Yes. This film is it's an interesting one. I'm not too sure where I fall on it. Many years ago, I got for Christmas when I was a teenager, I got the Universal Collection box set of the original monster movies. And The Mummy, I think, is the only one that I didn't watch. Okay. I just didn't get around to watching it for some reason. I watched, obviously, Frankenstein. I watched Dracula. I watched Wolfman, Invisible Man, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Another one I can't remember off the top of my head. But I never got around to watching The Mummy for some reason.
Okay. I thought you'd see... Is this your first time seeing it?
It is.
Because you said that you'd seen the other one, but I was wondering, were you thinking of the...
I was thinking of the
1952 Hammer horror?
Yes, that's the one I watched very recently.
Was that 52 actually, or was that 72? Were those in the 70s or the 50s? I can't remember.
One of the two.
But the Christopher Lee one.
Yeah,
the one where Christopher Lee is the Mummy.
Yeah, I watched that very recently.
Yeah. But those ones were a bit more ramped up because we're closer to a time that was getting more closer to a little bit more exploitative horror kind of thing. Like Hammer horrors have a little bit more blood and gore to them, don't they? Kind of thing. Whereas this is the original, almost like now you'd be like, put it on with the kids, no problem.
Yeah, 100%.
Like any of the Universal ones now, you'd put them on and they'd be like, they see worse shit in Bluey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like it's a weird one watching these because I like sometimes like around about Halloween and stuff like that. Sometimes these ones pop up on TV or on the old horror channel, things like that used to be, or I just seek them out kind of thing. Because there's something about going back to the very classic ones, like where a lot of these ideas flourished from, if they weren't like this one, for instance, like The Mummy. But unlike say Frankenstein or Dracula, it wasn't from a book. This was a concept that was kind of developed. Obviously, it's from a basis of history, but it's not a kind of a based on any book. There wasn't a book that is The Mummy that this is based on. Whereas all Universal horrors up to the point of this one had been based on a book, like Mary Shelley or Bram Stoker. So Bram Stoker.
You always do that.
Always Stoker.
Always Stoker. Yeah. It's an interesting one because I wasn't sure what to expect of it. I think on the last episode when we spoke about Lee Cronin's The Mummy, we mentioned like we want to see somebody wrapped up in toilet paper, chasing people, doing that kind of thing. And I feel like I was expecting that.
Yeah.
Whereas what I got was very fitting of kind of a movie of this time in terms of some of the themes, some of the storylines of it. And I don't know how I feel about it, truthfully. About this film? Yeah. I don't know how I feel.
I mean, this one is much more of the basis of what's, in some ways, what you would expect of a Mummy kind of movie. I mean, most modern audiences, to be fair, it is the Stephen Sommers, Brendan Fraser one. That is the one that is the basis of what most people know the Mummy. But the one thing that I've had, and from what I've seen, obviously following our episode from doing that thing, is that a lot of people just really did feel that the Lee Cronin one, although kind of a good horror film in many ways as a horror film, it felt like it was too far removed from and the actual basis of what makes a mummy film kind of thing. As well as actually an interesting debate because we're thinking about this and we're going to do other Universal ones, like we've got Wolfman and things like that we're going to come up with. And we've previously done one of the reimaginings, the Wolfman movie, that's that. But someone pointed something out between, like, one of the things that let that down to them was that actually between Wolfman and Thing was not that neither story was technically completely bad, but it was the fact that in both films the actual design of what you would count a mummy was not great at all.
Yeah.
Like when you actually take it back to the design, and again with Lee Cronin's one that we just reviewed, I just at the time didn't really think so. I was so much focusing on the story and stuff. I didn't really think how much I really liked the design. And then the more I think about it, I'm like, yeah, the design is not an amazing choice of it kind of thing. There is a cool parts when they're wrapped up, that kind of work, and I like some of the ideas. But when you think about it more and more, when you look at her in the picture and stuff of the girl in Lee Cronin, you're like, yeah, okay, I can see why people are saying about that design.
Yeah.
Which I intercept here because very early in this Mummy, we get a fucking banging mummy. Like I think,
very early, yeah.
Yeah, very early, and then we don't really get it. Like that. Yeah. That was a disappointing part for me of this film. Was so early at the beginning of this, we get where they are in a kind of a post in Egypt, and they are like in a station, and they have just unburied. Not only a mummy, but they've also found an artifact box of that post. And this takes place about 12 years before the main story of this one, when they found the body of this Imhotep. So again, you've got that classic. There's Imhotep, that's what you're expecting, So that's who you're expecting. This opening scene, obviously straight away, you kind of, it's got the oddness of we've got like the Swan Lake music is the opening of the thing. Apparently that's the Dracula has that as well. I don't remember that, but Dracula apparently also has the Swan Lake music to begin it in the Universal. I guess that's just, I don't know. It was free to use. I don't know. But yeah, so I really liked to start with the opening. I really liked this kind of opening of revealing slowly where you've obviously got, one thing we've talked about in the past with these kind of like 1930s, 40s, 50s films is there's a lot of talk. There is a lot of like explanation, and it is in all of these kind of ones. They like to fill a thing like as if it has to be, I feel like in a lot of these films, like silence is not a consistent thing, or it's not. They haven't given you information if they haven't fully explained the whole information. It is that kind of suit you've got to get used to with like older performances or older scripts. Is that back when they were first started Hollywood, there's some absolutely incredible films and things like that. You've got a lot of talk
and a lot of reading.
Yeah.
They all seem to open up with very much like. I think this one opens up with what a mummy is.
Yeah, like a scroll.
Like a scroll. And they all seem to have that very intro title card. It's something that, I don't know when it stopped, but they also do all of the credits at the start of the film. It feels so odd.
Yeah, it does, because then when it ends and you're like, oh, and here comes the, wait, no, what? It's end.
Yeah.
Like, you just get like a title card and then it's done. It's like, what? Okay, it's over. Yes. I mean, I'm kind of like, it's kind of nice that there's like this end. It's actually done. We can walk out now.
We can go, yeah.
No post-credit scenes.
You see the mummy join Nick Fury.
Yeah.
Like that,
Well, yeah, of course. We join Dracula and Frankenstein. We're making a team.
We're making a team.
The League of Gentlemen are coming.
Yeah, that's true. I like the opening. I do like the Boris Karloff when he's in his kind of decrepit state as Imhotep, and we see him in the coffin. It's always funny watching old films as well, when we've got very of its time, like 1920s, the British in Egypt. They're all archaeologists. But and this is before Indiana Jones made archaeologists cool. This is all suit wearing. I don't know. They look like they're in their 60s, but they were probably in their 20s. That's how it is. And they're talking around this curse and this scroll,
Yeah, I was going to say, everyone in older films, you look at it now and be like, that's like a 50-year-old man, right? And they're like, no, that's a 20-year-old man.
17-year-old boy who's making his debut.
It's literally like, what was the other day, I saw it flash up on the thing where everyone was like, did you know that basically, like, if you're in your 30s now, you're the same age as the Cheers cast? Yeah. Like Ted Danson and like... And all of them, and like, in fact, you're older than Woody Harrelson. And that then you look at Woody Harrelson and that thing, you're like, fucking hell, that's a hard mid-20s.
Yeah,
that's a man who's like partial balding and looks like Woody Harrelson now. Basically, it still just looks the same. It's like, god damn. Or just looking at why am I blanking on his name? Fraser.
Yeah.
Mr. Fraser Crane. Like looking at him being like, that man's been 50 his entire life.
Yeah.
Not even now, he might be older than 50, but he's still like a 50-year-old man.
Yeah. Some people are like it, man.
Some people are bored that
Hulk
way.
Hogan.
But yeah. He just always is that tanned. It's like
always tanned.
One day you had normal skin, didn't you? Like once upon a time you did, didn't you?
And then it's like a hot dog.
No, he came out in hot dog skin.
Like a hot dog. Like one of the hot dogs you get at the cinema. It's been out for hours.
Yeah, that is it. He's the one that's like, we should have stopped selling that about 8 hours ago. Yeah. But it's still spinning.
It's still spinning. Keep it going.
So you have got the one that almost seems more of the younger roguish guy who's there, who's talking about the one who makes the mistakes of looking further than he should be looking, kind of thing. You've got the archaeologist of the area who is like, we shouldn't be doing any of this, that kind of guy, and then the one who's like, I've done this forever, we must do this, it's for science, we are the men of the future, and things like that. And those two leave the other guy inside while he decides that you guys just said don't look at the box, but of course I'm by myself now and I'm bored. I must look at this box. I'm a devilish rogue.
Yeah, he's the rogue
that's kind of doing that. But I really like this, like, one, getting to see, but I like it as we get the kind of slow thing of him slowly opening the box, and we get to then see like the hand or slight movements of the mummy even as it starts approaching closer and closer. Now, I thought we were only pretty much just going to get like this like hand shot, but we weren't going to see the mummy fully moving until later, kind of thing, because we see him moving closer. You see the bandage dragging along the floor as he's coming there, and it's a properly like wrapped up. Like I think I read it was like an 8-hour process to wrap Boris Karloff in all of that stuff, and it took like 150 layers of bandages or something like that to basically make him look like that and change it. So it was quite a thing, which might be why he doesn't continue to wear that for most of the film.
Probably.
But yeah, as he gets this thing, and then suddenly it turns into this hysterical laughter as he's like, "Fuck it, what is it?" Like as he's just laughing out loud, like he just goes insane with the hystericalness of it. But it is one of the scenes, again, with our view and perspective, is like, what? It's just the guy's just wrapped up, mate. Like it's not. But from a 1930s perspective, watching that in the cinema, that would have been quite a suspenseful and like terrifying kind of scene.
Yeah, of course.
The first idea of these like little glimpse shot, and it's the weird thing, but you've got to think like 1932, like this is the building of what modern day horror is made of, kind of thing.
And that's the thing that I have to keep in mind when I think about it, because there are plot points. And most of the plot, which I feel like, that's almost so like rote. It's almost so kind of heavily treaded ground. Yeah. But then I need to remember that this is a film from
all of the Universal ones though were basically like they weren't like close adaptations of the book. They took the idea, even when they were based on books. They were all basically like a different monster, but the same kind of way that it kind of someone's come alive or someone's been attacked. Now we're going to investigate this. Every once in a while, someone dies off script. It's a very similar kind of thing. They found something that worked and they went, right, just add a different monster into this mold. And it could have been, you could have put Frankenstein, you know what I mean? Like you could have put them in different ways round. And it's also so you've got to look about like looking back. It's a weird thing of like, what we're used to now is modern sensibilities versus that. Like,
of course. And
there is like the part of me, and there was a part of me sat there being like, watch this film. You're kind of bored.
But dopamine.
But it's good. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I can appreciate this and I understand it, and I really want to like be like absolutely love this, and at the same time your modern sensibilities are going like, yeah, but come on. Do something. Like mummy, do so. Like I want to see Boris Karloff do more.
It's not only that, but there's a moment, and like this is later in the film, where the mummy in his kind of human form says, bring your Nubian slave to do something. Yeah. And I'm watching it and I'm like, I think that's just a man in blackface. I don't think that's a black man. I think it's a white man in blackface. And it's so
I wasn't so
uncomfortable.
So sure
I'm 90% sure if it is.
90% sure.
I'm 90% sure. It's so it struck me as being weird, and I feel like there was that thing of watching it and being like we mentioned in our episode on
Noble Johnson. He was a black man.
Oh, okay. Retract that.
Noble.
There's
still the aspect of like every single ever person in this film is white, except for the one person who's the Nubian slave.
Yeah.
There is still a time thing there, you know.
All the Arabic men who were digging his finger. And that's it.
Do also, this is still very much in the time, you know, of
the British
There
Empire.
was still and there was still like 1932. There was still a huge, massive, you know, the drift of racial and separation and segregation was still. To be fair, still a good distance before it was fully like actually looked at by the it was close to the 50s and 60s by the time they actually went, holy shit, this is
Maybe
really fucking horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's it. I try and tell myself like you're watching a film that's almost 100 years old, and I guess it's supposed to reflect the time, and it's weird of me to say, I wish that this film was more progressive in some of the way in which it's told, you know. But it is a bit, it's odd, you know. It's that kind of thing of like, it's a very old film, but at the same time, it's so of its time that it's a bit weird to watch at times.
Yeah. I mean, I've got like it wasn't so much through some of those elements, but like one thing was, you know, it's. The bits I find harder, if anything, as I said before, I do find a lot more of the over exposition of it all is the bits I struggle with more, because it feels like you're watching for about, and obviously these aren't long films, it's like an hour and 13 minutes long. Yeah, you know what I mean? Quick. It's like it was very quick, but it's weird when you're saying like it's an hour and 13 minutes long, but there are parts when it was like, okay, this is quite like hard to watch in terms of like I'm not really feeling like much is happening here. It's kind of quite slow, you know what I mean? Like when you've got those very exposition-y scenes where you've got a bunch of professors who sit around in a room and say, this is actually what happened, although the ancient Egyptians, and start telling you all of that stuff. But when it happens like once in the film, you're almost expecting that exposition, but when it starts happening like multiple different scenes every time something else happens, you start being a bit like, okay. But in terms of like, obviously, like one, we said the mummy design I think is awesome. I do wish there was more of it, but we only see it in the opening scene. Like, well, apart from there is later when we get to see how it all came to be, which was another really good scene.
That's cool.
But the opening scene with it kind of showing, I was like, this mummy looks really awesome. But in my brain, again, going for like one of the other mummy films, going like, right, he's escaped now, so now it's going to be a case of, I assume maybe he's regaining his power or something like that. We're about to, and the film is going to be like, he's just got away. Oh my god, he's alive. Let's we must find this mummy before we kind of stop him, kind of thing. But then it goes 12 years ahead, and the mummy's just there, and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. So like what I was expecting to happen, and I had seen this before a long time ago, but I just completely forgot. I thought there was more mummy, more what I say, the bandaged version of the mummy. I thought it was more of a part of the plot kind of thing. And this is where you can see elements that things like other adaptations have taken those ideas of like Imhotep, he's reborn kind of thing, but again, like it feels like now it's become very much a thing of like that they have to take energy, revive, like things like that. Is much more from the more modern adaptations. It's not actually from some of the older ones, although not forgetting that all of these monster movies had like 4 sequels or like 5 sequels.
Yeah, it's probably in there.
Like there's loads of ones like The Mummy meets this, or The Mummy meets what is it, Abbott and Costello, and things like there's ones like that. There's loads of sequels that happen to these Universal monster movies that you forget how many different versions they had, you know, for what they were. So we skip ahead, and this is when we kind of go ahead to, you know, meeting more of who is our hero of the film, but also this is kind of when we get the first idea of what it is now, which is he is alive and well, and he's basically been living for the last 12 years like as a building himself up as like an architect.
Yeah, like an art collector, something like that.
Inside of the museum kind of thing, and all of this and that, and then where it is, the British Museum or wherever we're going to that they live in.
They live in it.
Well, Ardif Bey, sorry. I was trying to think what his name was. Ardif Bey.
That's
kind of thing.
Ardif Bey.
And it's not that. I mean, like, one thing is, you know, Boris Karloff is an absolute, like, classic of horror.
Boris Karloff's great.
And when you do get to see him, you can tell why he was such a kind of terror terrifying figure. I mean, he looks scary in the bandages of that version of the Mummy, and as the Ard of Bay character, when you get to see him, he looks, there's just something about him, about his stare, about his gleam. The one shot that we continue to get throughout the film is this kind of still. It's still, but it's not still. Like, it looks like a shot,
weird
but his
shot.
eyes kind of have a weird focus on it. But every time it popped up like a very similar, like about 3 times, about the same kind of shot.
Yeah.
But I did still think it was like that is a pretty scary shot. You know what I mean? It's an iconic kind of look of him with that like glare in his eyes, isn't that the way that his skin still does? They've still made his skin look as if it's like
still
not
mummified.
fully. It's still it's still kind of the same about it. It's like he's not youthful. He still kind of is. Yeah, it still looks like his skin is more wrinkled than normal. Any normal human would be. The age he's meant to be anyway.
Yeah, and then this is also the bit that I'm kind of not overly interested in. We are introduced to the kind of the main character whose name I've already forgotten, and
yes, they were a forgettable. I'm not gonna lie, they were a forgettable. I know there was Helen because she is the Anaka Saman.
Yeah, his love.
Saman.
But that's it. You get
which I just remember from the other Mummy because they pronounce it so many times. Anaka Saman. Like again.
But you have his kind of his love reincarnated.
Yes, Mr. Frank Wemple.
Frank Wemple,
who is the archaeologist and Helen's lover. So it's.
But they only just met in this film, which
it
does seem to be a very
quickly
universal thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I've met you. You've shown no interest in me. If anything, you've actively tried to dissuade me, and I will pursue you.
I am the man. I'm the man with the perfect my beautiful squared jaw and my perfect hair. I am here. You are a woman I've just seen. You're mine now. That is almost movies of the time. We are in love because I seen you.
That's literally it. Isn't it?
Like you are a woman of power, are you? Well, I am a man of more power. Like I own this entire estate. But I am a man, so now I own this estate.
Yes,
there's a little bit of that in the context of it. Like they had one. They've just had one conversation. They're in love.
They're lovers. They're lovers. And it's even worse in our next film. But in this one, I was at about halfway point where he's like, "Oh my god, he's got her. I have to get her back." I was like, "You just fucking met her. You don't know anything about her, and you want to go and fight this ancient evil."
You're like, well, shit happens.
Shit happens. Yeah.
He just walks out like,
leave
her. You guys deal with that.
See another one. That's how it was back in the 30s.
I mean, that's that you literally like. The best way they could have portrayed that is literally them saying like, she's been taken, and him just another woman walks into the room. You're mine now.
You're mine.
My other woman is dead.
Yes.
You are mine now.
Yeah, my other woman is dead. I've legally grieved for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Now I'm allowed enough.
That's all I needed.
It did. It just struck me as being like, that's a very, very of its time thing. Yet again, really hard to get over. You know? Like they do, the Helen does have more to do in it, and I'm kind of surprised about the amount of like plot she had, because generally there isn't much, but it does feel as if it's the same old tired plot of like the damsel in distress, you know.
Well, yeah, kind of. She is, it is the idea that she is this woman who obviously we've got the one guy that is falling in love with her, and then we've got Ardif Bey who believes she is the reincarnated version of his lost love.
Yeah.
So that. So it still ends up being like the damsel in distress, but I guess on the plus side of the standard damsel in distress, there's actually more in the plot of to why she is, and even like a background to why this is, and even because at least she gets more stuff like as in like. She ends up becoming aware, like through the ritual that he does.
Yeah.
She becomes more aware that she actually is both. She actually is the reincarnated version of Anaksu, and at the same time, she's also still herself. And she's like, "Well, I'm reborn, but I like the world I live in now."
I really like that at the end.
Yeah, that she likes the idea that she's actually like, I know that, but this is me now. Like I'm not different. It doesn't. I quite liked that element of it because it was the idea that it's not just like. And again, that's in the other one. It's like suddenly she's taken over and she's the different person from the past, and that's who takes back over. Whereas this time, it's the ritual, like, it's actually the ritual kind of does it, and she's like, well, yeah, okay, I understand that, but actually, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, like, she like looks at Ardeth Bay and like, fucking hell, you're wrinkled. Where's that weird bloke I met like for 10 minutes?
Yeah, where's my lover?
Yeah, where's my lover?
Where's
Where's Mr. Frank Wemple?
That's the name
I want to be Mrs. Wemple.
I want to be Mrs. Wemple.
Not Mrs. Ardeth Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I cannot like, I know it's got, there was things about scrolls and the scroll that needs to be, as in like, don't burn it in the fire, you know, things like that. Like, we need to destroy this scroll, things like that. Well, it was good, but it was kind of like they mentioned it and then it kept on popping up every once in a while. I kind of lost track of what the point of it was.
But I liked it when the older man discovered that it was Ardeth Bay. You know, where I think they find like an artifact that has disappeared.
Yeah.
And then it turns up in his collection, and the old man goes to confront him, and then he's like, "Oh, you are the mummy."
Yeah.
It's like, you've regenerated, and I'm got to stop you. And he looks at him and he gives him that weird eyes thing.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, yeah, "You're too powerful for me, so I'm gonna go." He just doesn't try. And then later, that's when we get the scene where it's like at the weird fountain, and he's casting his voodoo spell on him. You know.
Oh yeah, we get several scenes of him doing his little like sit down, like his kneeling ritual kind of what he's going to do to him, because we get that is the guy from the opening who looks older because he later has the heart attack, doesn't he? He dies,
which is cool.
He's like, your father's dead. Okay. Let's all go in the car because my father is dead. We must go. But what are we going to do with all of his stuff? Kind of thing. There's a whole like scene of basically like well, what do we do with all of his things now? What happens now? What do we do?
He did the charity shop.
Okay. We must take him down. Clear his old man stuff out of my house. I've seen my woman. I've been back 30 minutes of this house and he's already dead. Good.
I've grieved.
This is mine.
I've grieved.
I am over this now.
You know, I fought the Germans. I've had my life has had its share of misery. Everything is going to be completely fine from now on. Yeah, and then the Nubian slave slips in through the window. Slips in through the window, I say. Which I don't know how, because I'm assuming it's not on the ground floor.
It could be, yeah.
I'm assuming
this is like a big estate, isn't it? So it is like a big like you've got steps up to get up to the windows and things like that. So
maybe.
Back then, just slide that window up and in I am.
And the Nubian slave takes the scroll and burns, makes it look as if the old dead man has burnt the scroll.
Yes.
And this whole nightmare is over.
It's over. Ardeth Bay, like the mummy will be gone now. And it doesn't, to be fair to them, it doesn't take them long to be like, that was a newspaper. we checked the things and it was a newspaper. Yeah. He's still out at large.
He's up to no good.
That's following the daddy being dead, because I remember mentioning that in the car, being like, we found out that actually it's this. He's still alive. We must go. So the Ardeth Bay. So to go to some of the kind of. At the beginning, we obviously have that mummy scene, which is, quite an effective little kind of horror-y moment for what it is of the time, literally, if you showed someone from 1932 and you went, here's Lee Cronin's The Mummy, they would fucking die.
They die.
You would probably have heart attacks from, jumping someone in that period of time.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. The same way if I showed a child of about 16 years old now and said, watch this mummy, they would probably kill themselves from boredom.
Yeah, they would die.
They would be like, is there a TikTok version of that I can slide through? And you probably could cut this film down to cut it down to a 8-minute reel.
Yeah.
That's it. Here's the highlights of the film. But it has the horror elements. You've got those. You've also got when we do get them again, there's not a lot of scene where we've got those. We have the security guard in the museum where Ardeth Bay is there at night. That's one of the first ones where we get to see that Ardeth Bay does something to them, where he kind of skulks through. One thing that is quite cool, it is very. I do like the way it's shot, because you've got the torchlight that only reveals patches of the room, so it does work quite well as an effective kind of scene until it glares onto Ardif Bey's face.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of those ones of modern expectations versus a thing of what you're expecting of like to happen to him, because this is basically, it just makes it sound like there's like a little fumble out the back and bang, he's got
they have a tussle,
like a tussle. Like again, your brain's thinking like, oh, how's he got his form like that? Is that like, did he unwrap himself and he was just around about what looks like a 50-year-old wrinkled man, or heavily wrinkled man, or did he somehow get this energy back? So my brain was going straight to like he's followed, but then does he like take his body, like when they come back, are they going to find like a skeleton or a corpse or something like that? But it's pretty much just looks like he just whacked him on the head.
Just bumped him.
Because when the detectives come in the next scene and they're looking at him, you're like, they don't quite show it. So it's like, they're hiding like what's it got? And then finally they flash the dead security guard's like face on the ground. It's like, oh no, he's just
sleeping.
I don't know. Like, I don't know what's happened to him there, but he has not been absorbed into Ardif Bey. He's just been killed.
Yeah.
So Ardif Bey's just knocking people off. You know what I mean? I mean, when he's not. I didn't say tugging.
No.
And when he's when he's not kind of using his rituals to give people heart attacks and things like that, you know, he gets some deaths. He gets to kill some people in this film, like the guard and those ones, but they're not like consistent of what I was almost expecting. I was expecting, again, like my brain goes, and I do think this is more of the later ones and the Hammer horror ones and stuff like that, which has more of the mummy actually in bandages attacking people, which is not actually which is what I somehow remembered it being, which it wasn't, kind of thing. This is much more of that kind of lost love story, which the Stephen Sommers Mummy kind of took some of this element and then mixed it a bit more with like the slight supernatural of like absorbing souls, things like that, like is what my brain's going to. Because there's a lot of like stuff in here that I'm like, that is classic, like that reminds me very much of the 1999 Mummy kind of thing. There's a lot of the story here, the lost love, the reincarnation that they've taken from that one, but then they added in action and they added in like some more actual horror.
Gave it a really good modernisation. You know.
So for those parts, because a lot of it does come to with a lot of scenes of like when people are talking to Ardif Bey, but then it's kind of followed by him doing some kind of a ritual to kind of guide and to get Helen to come towards him. And then he uses he kills Joseph, not Joseph, sorry, the father, and then his Nubian servant and slave brings him his scroll, and that's when they obviously Helen to come to space and reveals that the death of the father was the punishment for him trying to end him, kind of thing, end Ardif Bey. And then it's pretty much, this is when we kind of then get towards we've got Helen, and now we're going to do our reincarnation ceremony, but we also get to find out the kind of what happened, which is one of the more, I'd say, slightly more horror heavy scenes of the film, is actually getting to go back to Egyptian times when we see what happened to Ardif Bey. Like, how did he become? Because obviously he betrayed, he did basically what is considered a treason against the leader, the king of the time, kind of thing. And for that, because he was in love with, what technically was the king's, in their belief, kind of thing.
It's a good scene. You know? And I like the idea that they the god kind of cursed him, as he's kind of sneaking the scroll out to try and bring her back to life. And then I really like the story about they kind of embalmed him, they mummified him alive, which they said is like to deny him afterlife. And the bit where they say like they killed the slaves who kind of buried him, and then they killed the soldiers who killed the slaves because they knew where it was. And I would just think it's just a cycle of killing and killing.
Yeah, because it has that part from the beginning where it says that they've scraped off all the stuff that is meant to lead them to the equivalent of a heaven or something like that. Like that, you don't get to go there.
You don't get to go.
You are forever in this purgatory of hell, basically. Type of hell.
It's a really cool kind of backstory.
And I like when you actually get to see him all like them wrapping him and him actually getting put inside the sarcophagus. It's always because. The reason I think this is more of a heavy is because of actually seeing the human terror that Boris Karloff portrays through the eyes. Because one thing is that Boris Karloff, in all of his Universal like horror monster movies, is quite often he's in makeup, so you only get what's in the eyes. And there's no denying that some terrifying ass eyes. Like the way he can perform with those, whether it's those scenes when we just see Ardif Bey's face when we know that something's like he's trying to control something or he's trying to like hypnotize someone or like all those different scenes. They're really thing, but here we get where literally like he's just wrapped up and he's trying to move his body and literally his art is all you can see, but it looks like pure terror in his eyes. And the idea of being buried alive is like
it's
fucking
horrible, man.
Yeah,
you know, I feel like that's got to be one of the worst ways.
Yeah,
is being buried alive.
Well, yeah, just left there to have nothing, to have like just there with the pure thing that nothing's going to change here. Like I'm literally going to have to work myself out. I've got nothing to do. What am I going to?
You can't even work
I've got
yourself
no
out.
food. I've got, like you can't get anything out of that. You're completely like wrapped down.
Yeah, it's
There's
horrible.
nothing there. You've got nothing to really go for.
It'd be
I mean,
days.
quite often they even used to like remove the tongue so that you couldn't kill yourself by swallowing your own tongue. They're like, we've done that already, so you can't do that. You just got to die. Eat your cheek, mate.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Like until you are gone. Like it's nasty.
Yeah, it is. And when they were filming that scene, I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about it. You know, sometimes when you're watching a true bit of horror and it just gets to you. Like most of the film, I thought like there were creepy moments. You know, like Ardif Bey's face, that weird, imposing figure he has. There were moments where I was thinking like it's a bit boring and it does drag. I don't know whether that's modern sensibilities, whether it's just how the film is, how I didn't connect with it.
Yeah.
And then there was this moment where I was like, it's just fucking horrible. The whole idea of it, the fact that they actually did it, and it's just fucking rotten.
Yeah. And this all kind of obviously then leads into parts of our, you know, where we've got Ardif Bey, kind of Helen's got him, we've got his Nubian, with him, and they are doing the whole ceremony to fully reunite her with her past self, believing that that's going to bring back the love and the worship that he believes he once had, kind of thing. So I was going to say, like, it's... I mean, one thing is, I think for the time, I think to be fair, a lot of those production bits, like that scene when they are doing the original burial of him, and kind of this scene has some kind of nice kind of elements to it, like of the way that they're like thinking about the jewelry, the makeup, the parts of that kind of showing off in there.
The set's great.
Yeah.
You know, the set design is great. I love that little kind of like layer he's got, the Nubian slave kind of being there. But I feel like he should have more worshippers. Yeah. We should have more people there with him because he is this kind of cult figure.
Yeah, he's built. Yeah, it feels like all the time that he's been hiding and stuff. You'd have almost a bit more of a cult. Basically.
Yeah, he's just got one
cult
guy
of them kind of thing. He's just kept one guy around. He's like that. But what I do like in this is one, like obviously we've already talked about the rejection of Annex. That she fights like
when she clocks that he wants to mummify her.
Yeah,
and because up until that point she's kind of up for it.
Yeah.
It's kind
of hard because like from very early on in the film she starts to get almost like these weird like blackout, because one of the first things we get of her is when she is almost like as if she's like blackout drunk going up to the door. Like I don't think she's fully aware of what she's doing, kind of thing. I think the point when she gets that and she realizes what's going on, I think is the point when she kind of goes, it's like her mind goes back into like, you've not got as much control over me now, kind of thing. Whereas I think the rest of the thing, she's in this weird haze of like, what is reality, what's the past, what's now, kind of like, she's like proper high.
Yeah, she's going for it, mate.
Yeah,
you know, she's living our best life.
Yeah, she's just been on those edibles like the whole film,
and they just kicked in.
Yeah,
right at the end, and then somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna mummify you." You know?
Yeah.
It's never good. Like the time when I used to partake, and there were Christmas lights outside of the window, and I could only see them flashing, and I thought they were the police, and I was like, "Oh fuck, they're coming for me." But of course, lo and behold, it wasn't.
Yes,
I wasn't going to get mummified either.
No.
You know, but she's
that's your belief. Like,
that was my belief.
If someone walked in with some toilet paper right there, you would have just fucking had a heart attack.
They
fucking hell, they're gonna mummify me.
I need to burn the scroll. Yeah, you know.
But it's got Frank. That basically part of this is that they persuade, because she sees them and it's a distraction of keeping Ardeth Bay while they can try to destroy the skull.
Yeah.
But what I do like is that ultimately, like we said before with the original kind of burial of him, is that it ends up coming down to nothing more than actually that it's actually the god that submits the flame and burns it in the end that takes it away. That as if Ardeth Bay has been doing things that it had no right to be part of this kind of cult, like it had no right to use these powers, and therefore it is revoked from him, taken away. Like he's not achieved what he was meant to. I think it's, what was it, the Isis? Yeah.
Isis.
The flash, yes, on the skull of Thorn. Yeah, so it kind of, I liked that part. And what I also like is the scene of him, because the second that happens, obviously, people feel suddenly released, but also we get his body breaking back down. And I think that was a really cool effect.
It's great.
Yeah, having like where we get to see scene by scene, where at first he gets a little bit older, then the next time we go back to him, his kind of skin is broken down, where we get to see it slowly fade from like skin into bone kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then finally it's just almost that. And then finally it just kind of breaks down in the arm. Like when they go to check it, it just breaks down into nothingness in the arms.
Super cool. Yeah. You know, and watching that at the time, it must have been incredible.
Yeah.
You know, to think about the special effects.
Yeah, I think that shot would have been like, holy fuck, look at that. Wow,
that would have been the money shot that people wrote
that
to this
was
film
a big
for.
one. Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah,
you know?
that and the production on the actual burial of him like would have been like, holy fuck, look at that. Oh my god.
Like watching the Avengers.
Yeah. Yeah. And finally, at the very end, because all of these films just come to a like that's done, we get the idea that Helen's body, like the ritual has now left, and Anixu has now left her body, and she is now returned to just modern day Helen, and no longer a mix of the two that was blended and worked out in the two. And so that is it.
And then it ends.
And then there, title card, Universal, we done.
Yeah,
not much like. I mean, we've got like obviously the classic. Mr. Frank Wemple, of course, goes over and gets his big old like hug and loving moment.
Well.
Yes, I've saved you. Technically, you did everything because you kind of talked yourself out of it and saved yourself. But I'm the hero here.
I'm the
man. So of course I saved you, not the other way around. No. You wouldn't have got out of this without me, even though if you literally think about it, it feels like nothing that they necessarily did changed anything that happened in that room. It's the old Indiana Jones concept that if you took Indiana Jones out of Raiders of the Lost Ark, the film would have been exactly the same, just without the badass archaeologist the whole film.
You know, which you can't really say that for this film because.
But I can say that with Frank Wemple.
He's not a badass archaeologist. You know?
It's almost he's almost unneeded. Apart from to react to things like, my father's dead. There's my love.
My father's dead.
And look, she's trapped.
And to swoop her off her feet. You know, you can't have a.
We will become married now. And you were once you are the birthright of a Egyptian princess. Now you get to be my slave.
Until I go to war.
Yes.
And then come back with PTSD.
Yes, I am here for you. You've gone through all of this heartache. You will fall in love with me, and then I will die in World War II.
Yeah. I'll die in World War II. And I'll leave you with children. And you'll have to marry an alcoholic in Kansas and live on a farm.
Literally, there's a weird thing of that history of like when you look at certain points in time with films and stuff like that, and you're just like, they're like, God, he didn't really do that bad of a job. Like, this is the most horrific thing we're ever going to see. And someone like kind of walks forward from like 10 years in the future. Have you checked on the Germans lately? What do you mean? Like someone just walks in and goes, just going to leave the word Holocaust. I'm just going to walk out like saying, I was like, in grand scheme of things, this mummy ain't that bad. In fact, he might have been helpful.
And that old man was probably, he was probably a workaholic, smoker, drank whiskey all day. He was probably going to have a heart attack that year anyway. Sped it up a little bit. The guard.
100%. There's a reason. It's not just medicine has changed over time. It's 100%. You look at their diets. They fucking sat around drinking scotch all day long and smoking fucking giant cigars.
Eating everything fried in lard.
And you're like, no, why did they die at 50? Yeah, because they literally just ate a cube of lard.
This
is a delicious meal.
I don't do any exercise.
I don't do any exercise or movement because I have a slave.
I
have this Nubian man.
A Nubian man do it for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard because I try and remove modern sensibilities when I'm watching films from this era.
Yeah.
And particularly black and white films. I find like black and white has a real disconnect. If you ever, World War II footage itself is grim, but if you ever watch it in colour, it kind of it grounds the whole thing. It makes it feel so much more real.
Yeah.
So I feel like black and white always has this disconnect, and it's really difficult to separate modern sensibilities when you're watching something.
Yeah.
Particularly when it does have stuff to do with like, the British Empire and being kind of that era, and just that all of that stuff in there makes it feel a lot more dated, and I know it's nearly 100 years old, but I find it difficult to watch them without that stuff from the 50s and the 60s. I feel like I'm okay with, but it almost feels like black and white. I have a lot more of a disconnect.
Some people do like struggle, and then there are some people that literally just won't even watch it because like, I'm just not watching black and white. But even though there are some great black and white films of these eras, but I like, as I said, I like a lot of elements in this. It's just all that you kind of always expect like more like horror, I guess, when you hear like a monster movie, things like that. You expect more moments of those kind of things. So that is the modern sensibility of their kind of thing. But it's not those things that kind of makes you like. It's hard because a lot of this stuff, as we said, is a lot of this stuff was impactful and has molded cinema for the last nearly 100 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, it is that stuff. It's stuff like that story's a bit basic. It's like, yeah, but at the time, it wasn't that basic. It wasn't that basic. But then at the same time, a lot of the cinema and stuff, some of the stuff that was created was like in the early days of it, especially, and this is the 1930s. So this is the, we're not even talking like the 40s golden age.
Yeah.
Like that was more of the golden age kind of thing. So there is a lot of this stuff that is where you're looking at it going, yeah, it's kind of simplistic. There's some kind of sort of part of it, but I can definitely admire the thing. I can admire Boris Karloff's performance in this film. I think generally, it's those points of exposition that I find tricky. I find the dialogue and stuff at times, again, from a modern perspective, hard at times. But some of those things with the early mummy scenes, the burial scene, through to the finale, and some of those creepier shots of Boris Karloff, I can definitely see why people really love this film kind of thing in many ways. But out of the many monster movies I've seen, The Mummy does have points where I think it's a little bit slower at times, and it's quite a bit like, I feel like some of the other ones still had a little bit more kind of action to them, or a bit more movement, and I'm expecting a little bit more. But again, I can completely see why the blueprint of this Mummy film is the one that's looked forward to, and like why you kind of like you base all Mummy films based back to the original, and what elements should you keep and what elements should you update kind of thing. And that was the same, and the same with the reimagining that we just watched kind of thing. It's those kinds like what elements should be changed and what elements should be kind of kept. Yeah. And there was a bit of an imbalance there that's kept. But as we go forward with this monster movie, so the idea will continue to be that we are doing a classic monster movie. This time we started with because it was new in the cinema. Yeah. But next time it will be a case of we'll start with the classic one, and then we'll kind of use that knowledge to then look at the following one, and how do we think that they improved it, or do they think that actually somehow they took a film that was nearly 100 years old and they've made a worse copy of it, worse versions or reimagining of those films. So yes, we will be hitting a range of them, although I think we've decided not to go for the two the big Frankenstein and Dracula, or at least not the standard version. Like, we're not going for the original classic of Dracula and Frankenstein. We haven't done those ones, but we have done like versions of Frankenstein, and we've done a lot of Dracula.
Yeah, and we also said, which one do we then do? Yeah.
We want to do the ones that we're less aware of as well, like the ones that are not always as fun. Like, and Dracula and Frankenstein are the big two. Yeah. Like, they are the ones renowned and that more people have seen. We want to look at the ones we're like, we haven't seen it, or kind of thing, or like we haven't seen versions of them kind of thing, or it's not.
Yeah.
You don't get some of these movies all the time, whereas literally there's like a Dracula movie every week.
Pretty much. It does seem like it, doesn't it?
I don't even know how many Dracula films have ever been made, but I've got to imagine we've got at least triple digits there.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, if you've seen The Mummy, come and let us know your thoughts on it. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at CMTH Podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button. We've got some great films and seasons coming up for you. Leave us a lovely review. We will see you next week. Play us out, fellas.